So all that being said, now we will open up the public comment portion of the meeting. This is the public hearing, as I said earlier. I have written requests here. I have 14 written requests. If we do simple math, 3 minutes a person, that's an hour. So we're going to try not to sit here for an hour. We can keep things rolling along, as I said earlier, and try not to be redundant. You heard everything from the staff. You heard from the applicant. I hope everybody listened and understood what they were actually saying. And I have 2 more, so we have a total now of 16. So we will put all these in order of receiving them, and we will go from there. So I'll open it up. I'll start with the first written request, and that is from Ed Giglieri. Also, I should announce, again, for those who have never been to a public hearing, you need to just announce your name and address, please, for the record. Barbara, can we just get that out of the way, because folks are going to be walking by. Name and address for the record. Madeline will get the shot clock up there, please.
Ed Giglieri, 1045 Lake Rogers Circle. Oviedo has become Orlando North, which is the new Seminole County slogan, by the way. We've got the high density, but none of the services of Orlando. We encounter lots of traffic, much of it the result of trying to control left turns. The traffic calming devices, such as traffic circles, are basically half-baked. You can see the one by the library is always run over. The new proposed Oviedo Boulevard extension will probably be just a 2-lane road with curves, probably a traffic circle or 2, and will result in even more congested left turns going towards Alexandria to Alafaya Woods Boulevard. The extension will be of great value to the developer, but really not much to the citizens. The so-called relief to Mitchell Hammock, which has supposedly been advertised as Broadway, won't be fully done until 2023 or 2024. And currently Mitchell Hammock does need to be widened, but rubber bumpers are used to block traffic. Wow, that's really traffic engineering. Now, yes, it is in the law that schools are not to be considered in development considerations, but servant leaders would consider them, especially when the car lines grow. Mitchell Hammock on Stenstrom, when you make the right to Alafaya Woods Boulevard in the morning and the night, that's backed up. Now, we're supposed to believe that the LPA board was wrong in its decision, that they decided a no, and that the developer went back and reworked the numbers and made it look pretty, sort of like lipstick on a pig. But basically, in my opinion, the city council has little respect for the LPA when it disagrees with the decisions. If it did agree, it would rubber stamp that no decision. Stop trying to add unlimited people to a tiny town. Stop trying to add unlimited people to a tiny town. What we are in need of, instead of more development, is a well-written term limit resolution. I'll be glad to help write that. The 22nd Amendment would be a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is from Megan Sladek.
Good evening. My name is Megan Sladek. I live at 6007 Lake Charm Circle. One thing that I think is important for us to know tonight is that this is not a situation where if you meet certain criteria, you win. This is a purely policy decision that is a comprehensive plan change, and it seems like a very hasty one. There are some things that were presented tonight that I don't think were made clear in the materials. One is that I was under the impression that the developer would build Oviedo Boulevard at the developer's expense. In speaking with the developer, that's not the case. It would be by getting impact-free credits, dollar for dollar, to build anything additional that the city simply wanted. So that's a taxpayer expense, and I would guesstimate, if I'm just guesstimating, I'd say it's about $1 million of impact fees that we would not receive to address critical infrastructure, but you need to talk to the experts on that. Another thing stated was that the developer can do all of this by right now. And the developer can do all of this by right in 2034 when the city's lease on that land expires. So I'm not sure what the rush is to move towards doing that. Another miscommunication, I think, was that the developer will give a 32-acre buffer. I think a lot of people in reading the materials initially thought that would be for free, but it's not. And the only number I saw was one that was batted around on social media by someone sitting on the dais, and that was $7.5 million. So it looks like this may trigger a very significant expenditure of public funds. And when we don't necessarily need that much land or have a plan for it, I'm not sure what the benefit is to rush into something like this. Coming from the meeting with the developer again, my understanding is we only use 6% of the spray fields. That's 3.6 acres. So if all we need is 3.6 acres and we have not produced any rejected reclaimed water for the past 6 months, and again, I'm just going with what I was told, then perhaps we will continue not to produce rejected reclaimed water, and we will increase our delivery of reclaimed water and not need the spray fields at all, which would then make us perhaps hasty in rushing into a situation where we may trigger an $8 million investment.
Thank you. Next written request I have is from Nicole Friedemaker.
Hello, Nicole Friedemaker, 1039 Corkwood Drive. My comments tonight, a lot of them actually were answered quite well so far by the developer's attorney. I actually was not as opposed with some of what I heard. So I do want to share that to be fair. I do think, though, that as Megan stated, that maybe we do not need to rush into things and change zoning in order to make these accommodations. I would like for council to consider a moratorium on zoning changes in the comp plan that are already existing for a couple of years until we see how some of this additional development works out and how traffic patterns get flushed out. Thank you.
Next written request I have is from Joe Lykeman.
Hi, Joe Lycum, 818 Orangewood Drive in Oviedo. I've lived in Oviedo for about 14 years. I moved here because it was a rural suburb outside of Orlando. We might have a similar letters in our name, but we're not Orlando, and we're not North Orlando. I heard a lot of things here tonight and also in reviewing the LPA. And I keep hearing about dense urban development. I think that's going to be a dud here in Oviedo to have dense urban development. I don't think it's what anybody really thought they were going to have when they moved to Oviedo. The developer has 21 acres that he can work with. I think the remaining 38 acres should remain in the rural. You're not going to see anybody taking any DMU or public land and converting it back to rural in the future. The rural is a buffer. It's giving a buffer to a lot of folks. It's a buffer for the traffic. And traffic is a problem, and it's gotten oh so much worse in the last 5 years in Oviedo. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next I have a written request from Harold Buell. Just name and address for the record, please, sir.
Harold Buell, 964 Wellington Avenue. Mr. Mayor, Council, I have the privilege of being a recently retired soldier, and this is my last tour. I'm 17 across 30 years. And in that opportunity, I've seen a lot of development in a lot of places around the world where the development has outstripped the infrastructure and it's caused risk. It's caused failures. It's caused catastrophes in a lot of cases. Okay, now here we're hearing that the infrastructure can handle this. But I would argue that when we have public officials on social media saying that you need to get off the main roads and go through residential roads to reduce congestion, that we already have a problem. And so we need to address that problem, and we need to take care of the infrastructure. We need to consider the extreme cases that may occur with this density of population in this area. Electrical infrastructure, the robustness of the electrical infrastructure, as well as natural disasters when they happen. And we have people stranded. And we don't want to put that situation and go into that situation until we have the infrastructure and we have the basis in place. Okay, development or not, okay. But we need to go and look at the infrastructure. And right now, the metrics that I've seen are very elementary. They are linear. They do not take into account the complexities of a modern urban environment or even a suburban environment. And I've seen this. You know, the parasitic dependencies on the metropolitan area created situations in Seoul, South Korea, where we had residential areas and suburban areas outside that main metropolitan area that grew faster than the infrastructure, and it created risks and caused risks to the population. We don't want cars speeding through our neighborhoods, putting our children at risk as they're going to the bus stop, people walking their dogs. The main roads are there for the primary flow of traffic. Okay? The infrastructure that we have is not sufficient, again, especially given the statements that we've seen on public media, that we're putting people to drive through residential areas. And so with that, I just want to say that the strategic plan, the dates I've heard, 1993, 2002, maybe we need to consider that those things need to be updated. And change always happens. But if we look at the seal up there and we see what's on the seal up there, you know, it's not about development and buildings and roads and traffic lights. You know, it's about a sense of community and a sense of purpose. That's what Oviedo has always been about. And I think that until we get the structure in place to support this development, that we are not ready for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is from Jamie Matos.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Jamie Matos, 3121 Town and Country Road in Oviedo. I'm asking you to honor the comprehensive plan as it's approved and deny the amendment. In 2012, only 7 years ago, there were 430 traffic accidents in Oviedo. Last year, there were 746. These numbers came directly from a crime analyst at the Oviedo Police Department. I have her email and I can give it to you if you need it. I'm not against development. I believe in property rights. The property owner has every right to build a maximum of 145 units on that property. We should not be approving an amendment to the comp plan which will increase the max density to 600 units. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is Belinda Ewan. Did I get that right?
Ewan, yes.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Belinda Ewan, and I live at 944 North Lake Claire Circle, Kingsbridge West. I moved here 25 years ago with my parents, and in 2006, my husband and I bought a house there as well. We raised our children there. We have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. It's been said that this deal is already done. I don't believe that. I have faith in this community. I keep reading and hearing the city and staff referred to like they are an entity. In this packet, the entity has recommended the approval of this ordinance. With all due respect, aren't we the city? We are the people of this city, and we are the constituents, and we are the ones who pay the taxes, and we are the ones who voted the city council in to represent us. We are saying, do not change the comp plan, and do not change the comp plan for a developer. We do not have to give a developer anything extra. That 6 acres is a portion of our paradise. We know that the property owners have rights and that this current comp plan is the law on this land, but we do not need to change it, and we do not want you to change it for a developer. We were told the golf course was to be bought and to move the perk ponds. Now we are not moving the perk ponds. If the city wants to change the comp plan and buy the rural portion of this land and make it public, well, if they do that, we do not know. We know that it will in fact be developed. The problem is that it would be a gamble on what would eventually be built there. We do not even know what the price tag is of that land. We know that statistics can be manipulated, and we want decisions to be made not from the developer statistics. We want unbiased reports and studies done. because we are the taxpayers and we are the ones who will be left financially responsible for the roads and traffic and infrastructure and busing our children long after this developer is gone. He has everything to gain and we have nothing to lose. Please listen to us. You are making deals with the landscape of our lives. Do not change the comp plan. If you do, he gets the gold mine, we get the shaft.
Next written request I have is Pamela Smith.
Hello, Pamela Smith at 1028 Corkwood Drive. I would first like to voice one specific concern, not relating directly to the proposal itself, but to the lack of transparency shown to the citizens of Oviedo regarding this large-scale project. As a citizen and taxpayer, I am extremely disappointed that my local government does not do a better job informing its citizens in a timely manner on these important issues, as well as encourage them to share their opinions and be willing to receive feedback in a respectful dialogue. This is not how to build trust, cooperation, and civic unity. I even thought about using my entire 3 minutes just addressing this issue alone, but I'm going to leave it at that. Right now, there are bigger issues at stake. So this new and revised proposal, which claims to be restructured based on consideration to the comments, concerns, and desires that the citizens spoke of at the last LPA meeting, is not anything near what the people asked for. I was at that meeting. Yes, we need affordable housing and also affordable housing to include our senior community, but that's not what this is. This is just more luxury apartments, and there is no mention in the packet on the affordability of the senior housing. Someone, and certainly not everyone, also indicated at the last meeting that putting a park on the rural portion would be nice. Well, allowing the city to buy this land does not guarantee us a park. And what are we paying for this rural land? Also, how much will this so-called passive park cost? We, the citizens of Oviedo and taxpayers, have not been provided these important details. Absent this information, I envision our city in the near future will likely be lured into rezoning and selling this land for profit just to address the debt we have accumulated from buying it. How much will the silos cost that are needed to treat the water in order to move it to the golf course? How much impact fees is the developer getting to build the new road? Is it dollar to dollar, so I've heard? Then we are essentially paying for a road that is not part of our comp plan and only needed because of this project. So to break it down, essentially we are giving the developer 6 acres of rural land to be developed on and a free road, new zoning, so he can increase density by 493%, and we get an overpriced piece of public land that we don't really need. Council, we don't have enough answers to our questions. And again, the lack of transparency is just such an issue for me. There are so many variables and moving pieces to this, and it's not fair to ask the support of the taxpayers without complete and full disclosure and providing answers to our questions. We deserve that. Our comprehensive plan is our Constitution. It is and should remain our guiding force for all future activities until 2025. Changes to this plan should not be taken lightly and only be made when they serve the best interest of our city and the people that reside here. Yes, the plan is due to be updated in 2025, but that's 5 years away. We need that time to address the current infrastructure issues, and I realize we have a plan to do so, but rushing a change in our comp plan to amend the future use of this piece of land is not in the best interest of our city. We should not amend our Constitution simply because a developer wants to do more than what is currently allowed.
Pam, your time is up.
Thank you.
Miles Solerio, did I get that right? Okay, I'm sorry, I just couldn't quite read it. I apologize.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, concerned citizens of Oviedo. My name is Miles Solerio. I've lived here for 28 years. Served in the military, supported 8 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm here today because I'm really concerned, because I see 2 key words, arbitrary and almost capricious. I'm speaking here not because of a NIBI, not in my backyard. I live at 1310 Lake Rogers Circle, that east border over there. I enjoy the area tremendously, as are other concerned citizens in and around the border area. I'm not going to invent an urban legend. I'm simply here because I'm concerned. The timing is one of the things I want to talk about. The timing of this whole thing. Since April 4th, we've come a long way. The plan is released on the 12th of September.
Sir, address the council, please.
On the 12th of September. We haven't had that much time to look at it, but I just extracted a bit of that information. Adding 74,000 square foot retail, commercial, a restaurant, fast food, a general office area is a good approach, but there's excess capacity. Go to Oviedo Mall, you can look at it. You go to other areas, there's empty spaces. The other thing is the traffic congestion. Be as it may, the study, I'm used to seeing that rubber thing that comes across the road, that box on the side, that does the actual traffic count. What I think I said, I can develop an Excel spreadsheet with metrics on it to do a simulation and come up with numbers you can like. So with that all in mind, the action going forward is, I beg the city council to not adopt this requested CPA 1682. Plan is a four-letter word. It's work. It takes time. It takes work. It doesn't come overnight. With that, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is Philip Gold.
Philip Gold, 2600 Doubletree Place, here in Oviedo, and from Live Oak Reserve as a director. I urge the City Council to vote no on any change to the comp plan amendment. I believe Oviedo has reached its residential density limits. Our roads cannot handle more traffic. Mitchell Hammock is deteriorating from overuse. Extending Oviedo Boulevard will not help, as it will create longer light timing, creating further delay on Mitchell Hammock. My rough guesstimate is another 25% delay in that timing, because you have right now a three-way intersection. Now it'll be a four-way intersection. I would rather see more beautiful green space as a beautiful quiet park in that land. Of course, the city might have to buy it to do that, but it would help to save our environment and our sanity on the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next written request I have is Marilyn McStay.
I'm Marilyn McStay, 1035 Corkwood. I think that we already have a good deal of traffic up here at this intersection, and light has to cycle twice for you to get through Alafaya and Mitchell Hammock. And last time we had a meeting, our long-term planning committee recommended that we don't go through with this, so I'm questioning, why are we still talking about it? Are we not taking their recommendation? And the other thing was, we were told that the schools are over capacity. If they're not over capacity, you're saying now that they can absorb all these extra people's children that would move in this neighborhood? We need clarification on that, because they either are or they aren't. This has gotten misconstrued. But we enjoy the rural life out here. The city we're not in skyscraper city, and we like that there's bird life, wildlife in this little reserve over here, and we don't want to see it paved over or too commercialized. And we would like to conserve that and have the Oviedo chicken emblem not be replaced by a skyscraper. And I know there's a lot of neighbors that we speak for, but anyway, we're against this density. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is from Edward Stork.
Good evening. Edward Stork, 1046 Schaefer. One of the most challenging things for a citizen to do is understand exactly what is involved with this comp amendment plan. There are several elements within it that I do not understand, and there are several elements I disagree with. But the vote on this plan should be a community majority. I'm not an attorney. I'm a college educator. I'm no different than the overwhelming majority of the tax-paying citizens here in Oviedo. Because of this, we have a local representative body that is designed to serve the citizens. The representative body sitting in front of us has the obligation to act on the behalf of the majority of the tax-paying citizens of Oviedo. These 5 people in front of us make up Oviedo's City Council. They have the power of the decision that ultimately affects 40,000 citizens in our community. The vote for the comp plan amendment this evening is not about just those 5 individuals sitting in front of us. It's about you and me. It's about the single parents that couldn't make it here because they're cooking dinner for their kids. It's about my wife that couldn't make it here because she's attending a volleyball game with my daughter. It's about the parents that couldn't make it because they're picking up their kids from after-school activities. We are all equal with our voice in our tax-paying citizens. We, as the tax-paying citizens, must ask ourselves, why are we rushing to get this amendment plan approved? We still have 15 years remaining on the lease of the land. If the developer would like to purchase the land as is, without changing the zoning, he has the right to do just that. If he walks away, who's to say another developer may not come behind him and offer a better deal, one that does not add another 2,000 daily commutes on an already problematic and congested area. Oviedo is still a desirable place, so why rush something that we actually have control over? If you follow social media, you'll see things like, we have to be careful what we say so that we don't get sued by the developer. Sued for what, I ask? We do not have to agree to this comp plan amendment. It's that simple. This doesn't even have to be a reason. There doesn't even have to be a reason. The council can 100% deny this comp plan amendment tonight, and the developer then has 2 choices. 1, to purchase the land and develop it as zone, or 2, go back to the drawing board and find something that works best for the majority of the tax-paying citizens of Oviedo. So again, why rush it? Why attempt to push something through just before we have 2 people on the council that are about ready to leave? Think about that. That's 40%, roughly half of our vote, will not be around to be held accountable for what's voted on tonight. I'm asking the remaining council members to reconsider what you're about to implement. If you have the ability to reconsider something that affects you as a remaining council member, there is no rush. Be the tax-paying citizens that are represented here in Oviedo. Consider that this will be your precedent moving forward.
All right,
Maybe you can help us do even better. Thank you.
I will just inform everybody that there are 5 elected officials up here who can make decisions for the city. So we'll just keep that in mind. Steve and I have chosen not to rerun. We are elected until the first meeting in December. So let's just keep that in mind. Next written request I have is Melanie Thomas. And I'll state one more time, that was borderline addressing personally, so we will not put up with that. I gave Ed a little bit of leeway there. I'm not going to give anyone else any leeway.
Okay, thank you. My name is Melanie Thomas, 3550 Diamond Leaf Lane in Live Oak Reserve, and I'll try to be brief. I just wanted to state that it seems somehow, from the way the developer is stating it, it's almost like a threat, like, if you don't do this, we will go ahead and develop on the land that we already have, and it will be bad because it will be extra dense. And that seems like an odd take to put on it. It's like, okay, you have the right to build on that land. No one says you can't. We're not here to say that you can't do that. But it's almost like, it seems like a threat. So that just seems a little odd. And I just want to echo what was said earlier. I don't think we should look at changes in the comprehensive plan from the perspective of what a developer wants and how it can fit into what benefits the city. It should be the opposite. The comprehensive plan should only be changed if there is a great need in the city that the citizens are asking for or desiring, and then a developer can come in and then try to create a plan based around that. Seems like it's happening the other way around. So I'm definitely not one of these not in my backyard. It's not in my backyard literally, but I just want to get to my backyard on the east side without sitting in endless traffic on Mitchell Hammock. And as far as the plan about making it bikeable, walkable and bike friendly, well, that's only halfway. If you truly want to do that, this is not the plan to do that. Oviedo in the Park, as nice as it is not a bikeable friendly community. There's way too many cars in there, parking spaces, traffic. I wouldn't let my child ride a bike through there. And if this is going to be similar to that, it's not really a bikeable, walkable community. So if that's what we want to do as a city, I'm all for it. Let's do it, but do it right. Have the guts, let's have the guts to put the infrastructure in, to put real bike lanes if we want to make this city walkable and bikeable. This is not it. So to me, if you're going to do it halfway, it's not worth doing, and it's not, you can't be sold as being a walkable, bikeable community if you still have to cross over 4 lanes of 50-mile-an-hour traffic on Mitchell Hammock, or if you have to walk across Alafaya to get to the grocery. That's not walkable. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is from Cheryl Keller.
Good evening. Cheryl Keller, 1047 Neely Street. I oppose this development, this proposal, for all the reasons that have been stated. In addition to that, if we are going to allow this development to go through now, what's the city and the citizens getting out of it? Are we going to get the $1.725 million in savings that the city is going to save over not leasing that land for the next time of the lease? Are we going to get Oviedo Boulevard paid for by the developer, or is that going to be on the citizens? I'm looking at this and I'm seeing the citizens really aren't getting a lot. We're getting more headaches, more frustrations. I see people speed up and down the boulevard every day. Someday, one of our children is going to be in front of that car. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next written request I have is from Jill Dunn. Don't be nervous. Nice to put a face to the name.
Likewise. My name is Jill Dunn, and I live at 940 North Lake Claire Circle. We are urged before we come up here to not be redundant, because we don't want to repeat something that has already been done. When I look at this plan, all I see is redundancy. I see restaurants and shops, and we are developing that right across the street in Oviedo on the Park. Half of those spaces haven't even been filled in yet. And I urged at the LPA meeting that it was important to give Oviedo on the Park time to really fulfill what the goal was for that area before we make them compete with another property right across the street. Additionally, we're told that this is part of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has been around since 2002. The comprehensive plan is set in stone. Well, that land's rural designation is set in stone as well. And it's been around a lot longer than that comprehensive plan has been. And I don't think that it's fair for us to be told, here we go, this developer has edited this plan just for you guys. Look, isn't this so much better, when it's still such a far cry from what a lot of us moved to this area for. When my husband and I went and looked at that house in Kingsbridge West, and the whole way we drove in, and it was the first time I had seen green in so long. And I know for you guys it may be underwhelming green, but it's a lot coming from the Cimarron side of town. And we thought, this is exactly the kind of community that we want.
Kingsbridge does have a special amount of greens.
Oh my goodness, the oak trees are just bananas. But so that's a big part of the reason that we moved here, because I could look across the horizon and I could see my community members. I could see my son's elementary school. I could see City Hall. Please don't crowd that out with buildings. Please don't crowd that out with multi-story, multi-family dwellings when we already have that in this area. And so the last thing that I want to say is that I am urging you to listen to the people who've come up here and been brave enough to speak, whose voices have cracked along with mine, because you guys are a very intimidating crowd, and to take note that exactly 0% of the constituents who've gotten up here tonight, 0 out of 16 people, have been in favor of this the way that it's been presented. Okay? I got 25 seconds left and the Jets game just started.
Yours.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, the Jets are pretty pathetic right now, but they're not as bad as the Dolphins. So That was
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say something that the young lady said that you always say, she said she felt a little intimidated by
So do
us.
we all the time.
Especially Dom and I with the New York accent, but I have to tell you, it's been 14 years, and you never are totally comfortable up here yourself, so don't feel bad, and we don't have that big a bite. We're probably more scared of you than you are of us.
As a Long Islander myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know what anyone's talking about. I don't have a New York accent, so. All righty, next written request, and the last one I have this evening is from Tom O'Hanlon.
I actually brought a prop with me this evening. I certainly hear lots of fear of change. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. My name is Tom O'Hanlon, and I live at 827 Division Street. I am here to give a little historical perspective to your decision tonight. I've lived and been involved with the city for 37 years. Amazing how things have changed and how much fear there's been through all of those years of change. I brought a memento here tonight. This is a replica of the first transportation bond the city ever issued. Tell me what road this is for.
Mitchell Hammock.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. It is for Mitchell Hammock.
$1 million.
Your number's good, Mr. Mayor. On a road that was dirt, washboard that people would have accidents on, and then through orange groves to nowhere. And I'm sure there's people here tonight that would say, well, why did you only build 4 lanes? Why wasn't it 6? Why wasn't it 6? Why wasn't it 6 lanes? Well, at that time, there were no, that's right, I'll just count. There were no other 4-lane roads anywhere near Oviedo. We always voted for the future of Oviedo. I know we did a good job, as I know you have also done a good job, as many national organizations have rated Oviedo as one of the best small cities to live in. We elected you to look after the current and future of the city of Oviedo. This project before us could actually be part of the dream vision of the city that many of us had worked on together. Years ago, a community council of 50 people were selected to dream of what the new Oviedo downtown could be. We have a good start on that downtown. There are still more pieces to it. Besides the rebuilding of the old downtown, which will happen after the widening of State Road 426 and County Road 419 happens, which will help with some of the Mitchell Hammock traffic, there was this dream of a piece connecting Oviedo Boulevard to Alexandria near City Hall to help with some of the traffic problems. I was out of time, sorry. As Oviedo aged, there are citizens looking for a 55-plus community. Well, this project has all of these different packages, including our connection to Alexandria. Now that they've reduced the scope of the project, fits well in the future plans of our city. Developer could have just divvied up the downtown district zone and sold it off as lots for fast food joints. And fast food joints pay the maximum price for land and maximize his profit, but he is not. He's living in our comprehensive plan to give us a great downtown. Many of my Oviedo city councils have shared my desire to always buy parkland when we could get it at a good price. Because we knew as development took place here, there would be either no land left or
wrap it up.
cost too much money to do. Okay. All right. I will.
You're good. Sorry.
Sorry.
Gotta be fair.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty, that is the end of the written request, and I think a lot of points have been made. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to address the city council? Yeah, of course. Come on up. Just like everyone else has been doing, sir, name and address for the record first. Oops. That's all right. That happens all the time. Hang on. I think it got turned off.
G1380 Lake Rogers Circle. Okay, I want to address the point of your public use area. I've seen a line drawn through the middle of Lake Rogers. Okay, this is a natural environmental area where environmental impact has clearly not been looked at. There are a number of protected and endangered species of birds and animals living in that area. There is, on the western boundary, which is the eastern boundary of your area, a layer of forest. In that layer of forest, every winter, we have egrets nesting there. We have sandhill cranes on that lake. We have gopher turtles. We have painted turtles. We have the soft-shell turtles. We have several species of duck, two types of whistling duck, mallards. All of these would be eradicated by your plan of putting a park in there, drawing a line in there, wiping it out, putting in bicycle paths and benches. This neglects the wildlife. It's a natural wildlife area. It needs to be preserved as a natural wildlife area. This is a point which no one has made. So part of this plan that I'm opposed to is creating a park in the middle of such a wonderfully diverse environment for the wildlife. That's the entirety of my point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Anybody else like to address City Council?
Hi, Jean Rivera, 1151 Covington Street. In terms of walkability, I listened in April and again tonight, and that kept coming up. But I'm still very uncertain how they are going to address walkability. Is that only for those residents that are going to live on that development? Because it's definitely not walkability to be able to cross Mitchell Hammock. And if you are using the new access road, walking along that doesn't seem that safe either. So for walkability, if they could clarify if that is one of the advantages to their project, clarify how it's an advantage.
Thank you. Tom?
Let's wait until the end. My name is Tom
You may not
Walters.
be the end.
What?
I said you may not be the end.
Oh, I know that, but whatever.
I knew what you meant. I'm sorry.
My name is Tom Walters. I live at 760 Long Lake Drive here in Oviedo. I'm the mayor that was sitting at the dais from 2001 to 2007. So I've got a little historical base like Mr. O'Hanlon does. And I might remind you that I am the mayor in my second term that beat Mr. O'Hanlon for the position of mayor. So my memory may be better than his. I don't know. But what I wanted to say is just that...
That's your one free pass, buddy.
Whatever. I just want to say ditto to pretty much what everybody else has said. I think until we resolve, and I agree with the presentation that, you know, this could be done nicely for the city and so on and so forth. But I said I've never heard the city address the traffic problem and what other alternatives we could do. One of the things I advocated when I was the mayor was to really get on board with extending McCulloch Road over to Little Econ. Now, there's some discussion about it right now by a developer, and although I don't necessarily agree with the developer's approach, I think that's something that has to be done. At the time I was mayor, I asked for a little research to be done, and approximately 30% of our traffic on McCulloch could be reduced if the McCulloch Road went over the Little Econ and connected 419 with Althea.
It's probably gone up, Tom, actually. It's probably gone up in percentage from then. But
Well, as I say, that was 12 years
no,
ago.
of course.
The other thing I want to look at here, or mention that nobody else has, is residential properties, regardless of what the density is pretty much from a tax-based perspective, is a break-even event. What we receive in property tax for residential is going to pay for the services that our police and firefighters provide and what the recreation folks provide. So our real gain could be by having commercial property in there. that would give us a tax base that would help bolster the city in many other respects. But the other thing this last gentleman brought up, or next last gentleman, was the endangered species. Now, we had a situation out on 419 across from a elementary school that this council, not this council, but the council at the time, held up for months and months and months trying to decide whether there were endangered species in a little splash pond where the developer wanted to build a drive-through gas station with a
I was wondering where you were going. Now I remember
yeah,
that.
and I know at least 2 of you were on council at that time. That was a very good case of not in my backyard. So I just want you to look at that endangered species bit before you go further.
Thank you, Tom. All right, is there anybody else who'd like to address the council? Wait, I need a gong.
Don't bring it on me. All right. My name is Michelle Thornton Bollinger. I live at 1045 Corkwood Drive. The one thing that's kind of been mentioned, but not really thoroughly mentioned, the cut-through that they're bringing to Alafaya Woods Boulevard. I live in Alafaya Woods. You're on our board. You're on our page, so you know the complaints. Right there at Alexandria and Alafaya Woods Boulevard there's 3 crosswalks. There's 2 stop signs. People already run the crosswalks continuously. They don't stop for pedestrians. So if we add that cut through, a comprehensive traffic analysis needs to be done with that area, because the more people that come through, that's dangerous. It's dangerous for me, it's dangerous for our children, the elderly community, they use it, the daycares, they use it walking the children. That's a dangerous little area, and if you do it all up and down, there's a crosswalk at the park, there's crosswalks at the school. They're utilized every day. So that's just something I want to bring up that maybe you guys should look into, like how that would impact our neighborhood and what improvements would possibly need to be done to accommodate it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Is there anybody else? Nobody else before I close it? All righty. Close the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will go back to the applicant, because I saw Tara diligently taking copious notes, it seemed. Maybe not quite as copious as Mr. Kopp, but he is an expert at it.
Tara Tedder again for the record. I appreciate how many people showed up tonight that are concerned about development in their community. And I'm not a resident of Oviedo, so I certainly can't speak from the same perspective as the residents speak to you tonight. And I do understand that you're in a very difficult position. As elected officials, you have to look out into an audience of folks that may have elected you to where you are today. And I can appreciate the difficulty of a decision that you have to make, especially when you hear opposition in an audience. The other side of it is that outside of your elections, outside of tonight's hearing, there are 2 things that remain consistent. And that's your comprehensive plan and your code. So while I'm up here taking quite an unpopular position, I'm taking that position based on documents that your city has promulgated, documents that your city has told everybody in this room, including myself and my client, that they have to abide by. So anybody in this room who wants to do anything with their property has to look to those 2 documents to govern what the extent of their rights are. And those documents tell us things such as you as a city can't require developers to have certain off-site improvements that don't have a legal dual rational nexus to our development. We're certainly not obligated to fix all of the traffic problems, though again, if you ask your city's independent traffic engineer, he will confirm that the improvements that we are proposing and required to do as part of our project will certainly mitigate some of the existing issues today. And that even if people aren't happy with the way the roads are today, unfortunately, some of those roads were just designed to have that many cars. And the question is, does it have capacity for additional cars? And based on traffic engineering standards, the answer was yes. Now that doesn't satisfy the residents, and I can certainly understand why. But again, the comprehensive plan in your code lay out very specific criteria, none of which are counting the number of people who oppose a project and support a project. The criteria in your comprehensive plan in your code are specific. Mr. Cobb outlined them for you tonight. There were 10 objective criteria that you as city council members are obligated to analyze when looking at a project. It's the 10 criteria that your professional city staff is obligated to analyze when bringing a project to you. And after the review that your city staff has done of those criteria, after looking at the long-term planning goals of your city, of your comprehensive plan, goals, and policies, the conclusion was, back in April, from your staff, and still is tonight, a recommendation of approval for this project. So while some people may not like what the comprehensive plan has to say about what a mixed-use community is and why it is a practical, sensible, and sustainable form of development for the city of Oviedo, that's what your city's comprehensive plan tells me and everybody in this room that we have to look to when determining whether or not a development is compatible with the uses around it, whether or not a property owner can ask for something different than what exists by right today. And everything that we're asking for tonight is simply under the confines of what your comprehensive plan and your code permits any property owner in this city to come before you and ask for. Now, there were some concerns that you heard about Lake Rogers and about some protected species. I want to point out that that lake is part of what the city would control, and the line through the lake is simply a property boundary. That is not a line we're drawing through the lake for development, not a bike path line. That's simply the designation of where the property boundary is. So that 32 acres would be inclusive of Lake Rogers, but your code also has requirements for how development can be approved. So part of that site development order, again, that comes after all the public hearings are over. That's where your staff, that's where FDEP, that's where water management agencies analyze to make sure there are no protected species that would have any impacts to development. And that's not land we're intending to develop. That's land that we're telling the city, based on the feedback we've heard, the need and the desire to have more opportunities for the city to be able to extend, perhaps it's a new campus for its public safety building, or perhaps a relocation of its city hall, for us to be able to accommodate an Oviedo Boulevard extension. Those are all the types of elements that we're allowing the city to have, and yes, there are going to be discussions that we have, again in a public hearing, with everybody having the opportunity to talk at that time again about what that cost would look like and exactly what the developer would be requesting in terms of impact fees. Before we can get to that point, though, we have to at least get past step one. The developer, and any developer, cannot continue to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to do plans, spend 5 months rewriting plans, come back with plans, if we won't even get past a transmittal hearing. So we want to be able to bring forth that master land use plan, what those site plans specifically look like, exactly where those walkways are through our property, because the part of that compact, dense downtown development is that we would have the connectivity with multimodal transportation options. Again, that is a requirement under your comprehensive plan and your code. Those are the things your staff will continue to analyze with every document, every exhibit, and every plan that we submit to make sure we stay true not only to the promises that we've made here tonight, but also to the commitments that are required under your comprehensive plan and under your code. Again, the 10 criteria that were before you tonight all dictate that there is a recommendation for approval. You have the option to deny our transmittal tonight, or you have the option to just take a transmittal to send to the state. You have an opportunity to come back and say, after analyzing your rezoning application, after hearing the details of your developer's agreement, after hearing and seeing what you have in your master land use plan, we now conclude that this is not the best option for the city. And you can do that on second reading of this comprehensive plan amendment that would likely come back in November. But we ask for the opportunity to be able to bring you those details, to be able to say that the umbrella of what we are asking for, the maximum limits in densities and intensities of what we can have in our development is what we're asking for tonight. And we're already telling you on the record, we don't even want those maximums. We're reducing half the developable acreage. We're reducing our dwelling unit count. We're reducing the square footage of our commercial requests. We're still providing the things that we've been told that the city wants, like active adult lifestyle living, to be able to have the Oviedo Boulevard extension, to be able to have the connectivity between your old downtown, Oviedo on the Park, and your City Hall campus. We're still trying to provide that vibrant, mixed-use community that can give more options, that can complement Oviedo on the park, and can provide opportunities to the residents to have places to live, work, play, or just come and enjoy and go back to their homes. Remember that all the residential subdivisions in the city of Oviedo were built by developers. Developers shouldn't be a pejorative in this city, especially when what we're trying to bring back before you is a plan based on the feedback that we've heard, knowing we can't satisfy everybody, but based on the overwhelming feedback that it was too big, it was too close to the single family. And so we took that into consideration. We spent 4 months revising our plans, meeting with your staff, quite a few spirited debates with them about what was best, what your comprehensive plan said, what your master planning long-term goals dictated. And based on all of that feedback, with your staff's professional opinion, we revised our plans and presented them to you tonight. We certainly appreciate your consideration. I appreciate how late everybody has stayed here tonight, and we would welcome the feedback based now on these revised plans to give the opportunity for us, if there are other things that we can do to work with the residents, it's a work in progress. We now have the time, if we can get past transmittal, to be able to talk to the residents and say, what is the best option for development moving forward? Is there anything else that we might be able to do to accommodate what you view as the future of Oviedo? Because what we've had to look at the lens through is what your city has told us is your plan for the future. And your plan for the future includes sustainable, mixed-use, compact development that provides a vibrant community on this particular piece of land. It's not for everywhere, but it's in this area, given what your transportation planning and your long-term planning goals are. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and again, we would ask for a recommendation of approval just to transmit this ordinance tonight up to the state to give us the opportunity to come back with all of the details that they are rightfully asking for that we can provide through our rezoning, through our negotiated development agreement with the concurrent master land use plan that goes with it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions from the dais, Mrs. Tedrow or the applicant?
I have one question.
Sure.
The price of the public land hasn't even been negotiated or discussed yet.
Correct. And that's something that we have to figure out with the city, based on what the land use is today, what the city may want to do with it, and that's a price that would have to come back before you today, and there are constraints already under your city's charter with regards to how payments can work, and we've been working with your finance director trying to come up with what is the best number, what is sensible, what makes sense for the city, can you pay for it, can you not? And part of the reason that we brought this land use change was knowing that the city wanted opportunities to have an extension of its City Hall campus and perhaps the public service building. So we could have just left it and said, you guys can take it through and deal with public hearings and have staff-initiated public hearings, but we figured since we were already amending our portion, we would bring it through so that the city would be able to start day one with any of the ideas that it had for what the city needed in terms of public institution or perhaps conservation uses on that property.
Any other questions? No, we're good for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.